Ella no se oye.
You are going to ask me a question, but I'm going to ask all the questions to you.
No se oye.
And the first thing I would like to do
No se oye.
is to introduce
¿Se oye?
our what are we going to talk about? I think we are going to talk about the brain, behavior. How do you feel about brain and behavior? What are your feelings? Perhaps one question I would like to ask you is, what are you doing here? Which is the motivation to come to this camp? Are you really enjoying being here? Are things which are going to be taught to you here are going to have influence in your future life? Are all these questions that really interest me? I hope that also will interest you, and that I would like to have this exchange of information. But before starting, there's something that I was wondering when I was now in my room about the main subject of yesterday, happiness and peace within the brain. And when we discuss these subjects, there are a variety of semantic problems, that means meaning of words, that I think that we should first try to clarify. To clarify with your reaction, with your opinion. And the first thing I would like to clarify is the meaning of the words, big words such as mind, brain, soul, consciousness, awareness, soul, the astral body, yogis, superconsciousness, or so many things. So let's start with something simple or complex, and I would like to know your opinion, and this is a question to you. Let's take the first word, mind, because this is what everybody is talking here about, the mind. And so what do we mean when we talk about mind? Maybe can I ask to some of you, would you volunteer some explanation? What do you understand? What do you mean by mind? All right. What is mind? Thought.
Mind is made up of thought.
Any other opinion? Yes?
It's thought by I think that the mind is full of action of the brain. Full of all the action.
All reaction of the brain. All right. Thought, reaction of the brain. Any other opinion? About what is mind?
Thoughts and feelings together.
Thoughts and feelings. Well, let me give you my bias, my opinion. Yes, but you see, here we see very clearly the problem. You are giving different opinions about mind. And if you go to the literature, to the philosophers, or to the scientists, much worse. Each one will give you a very different definition of mind, and therefore we cannot agree. The problem, and now I'm trying to solve, the problem is this, that the meanings are very different. My proposal of solution, which we are going to discuss now, is that when you say mind, is like if you say the animal kingdom. And if you go through the literature, you will see that some philosophers, when they think about mind, they will think about feelings, about emotions, about the whole brain, about something else. It's like if in zoology you say animal kingdom, and somebody think about crickets, and somebody else about monkeys, and somebody else about human beings. They're so different. Therefore, as we are going to discuss a little this subject, mind, would you mind to clarify the concept? And instead of talking about the whole mind, the whole brain, the whole feeling, the whole I don't know what, why we don't try, just for this discussion here today, to clarify and to take only one single function of the mind. And then we can try to understand where is the mind, is in the brain, is in some area of the brain, but let's try to be specific. And it is your pleasure. Which of the many functions of the mind shall we select for our discussion here now today? Will be, I don't know, one function of the mind is sensory perception, no? When I look at people and at you, I'm using my mind. So, sensory perception, for example, the eye or the ear. Or if I'm thinking, well, I'm using my mind. Or if I am acting and walking, well, I'm using some mental capacity which will allow me, some brain function, allow me to walk. Mind, it is true, is some exteriorization of brain activity. But I would say there are too many, I would choose only one to try to center then our discussion about how are we going to deal with this very complex subject, mind. Which function shall we choose? It makes a difference. Yes?
Can I just ask before we do that? Because I have an image in my mind,
Yes.
and I just want to see how you respond to this. Because we all have our own orientation or bias or whatever model, maybe.
Right.
And my models are both Western psychology and yoga psychology, which in certain systems of Western psychology postulate, as yoga psychology does, that the brain is the physiology, the neurotransmitters, the biochemical things that are going on up here, that thinking, thought, is the subtle. We measure it with brain waves and so on and so forth. But taking your example of the animal kingdom and all these different animals, I suddenly had the image of stained glass like this up here. See, like all these different colors, but it's like the energy or the light coming through, you know, makes one a cricket and one a human speak. I feel like if you go to one specific, you'll take us away from a very key question, which is what's the difference between the physical brain and the subtle mind?
Yes. You are right. But with your approach, we are lost. Because there are so many things. So that's why my proposal is take only one single aspect of the mind, knowing that you're right. That we are deforming reality, taking only one aspect, which is not the mind. Mind is everything. I agree. But as from the experimental and neurobiological point of view, we cannot take everything. Even from the philosophical point of view, philosophers are lost because they try to follow you. And they try to do so many things. Yeah, no, but this is not possible. But it is too complex. That's why I say as an exercise.
Well, I thought I'd ask, because
You're right.
It seems to me it's a very critical
Yes,
question.
yes, you're right. Mind is everything. But from a practical point of view, as one exercise, let's take only one aspect, knowing that we are deforming reality. So, which aspect now? Which aspect shall we take?
Memory.
Which one?
Memory.
Memory. So, do I agree to take memory as one example of the mind? Somebody disagree. Okay. To take what? Well, this would be maybe a little too complex. I think that perhaps memory will give us some more clear aspects to grasp. Well, let's take memory. Okay.
Memory is not all you have to do. Supercomputers have better memory than human beings.
Not really. But let's try to play with that idea. If that works, if that's not, then we start with something else, no? Superconscious or anything that you like. But let's take memory. Provisional, knowing that we're deforming reality, that the mind is everything, but let's take one single aspect of memory. Because the main point that I would like to make here, with memory, with speech, with walk, with anything else, the main point I would like to make, and this is the point of discussion, is that we accept or reject my yesterday's proposal that mind in general and memory in particular has two aspects, two, and this is our main functionality. And the two aspects that I would like to clarify here are the, remember the outline of yesterday, material carriers and codified meaning with perhaps Centro. Let's try to clarify that. This is the main point I would like to make about personality, mind, memory, etc. Let's see if we can be clear about the distinction between material carriers and meaning, codified meaning circulating through our brain. Do you accept, or let's discuss it, that the brain is mainly a material carrier of everything, of all the mind, material carrier. What do we mean by material carrier? Well, I mean something which is material. Can you touch the brain? Well, certainly, in surgery you can. Can you weigh the brain? Certainly this is done. Can you smell the brain? Certainly you can. See, the brain has all the characteristics of matter. Therefore, I state, if you don't agree, then discuss this, that the brain is the material carrier of personality, mind, thoughts, memory, etc. Is that correct or no? Material, okay, one second. Material carrier, by material, I mean only the matter that we can investigate with material means. That means histology, surgery, etc.
Material carrier, right here we have to stop and talk about what is material. And this is whole discussion.
No, let's don't go into that, because we accept the definition of matter as it is stated in physics. Well, no, but something
it's not clear in physics.
Well, I know, but if we are going to prove in any way, then naturally we are wrong, right? But it is important to say that there is something material with the properties that we are not going to discuss, not to be lost, which physics accept for matter. That means that has a weight, that has a size, that occupies space, etc., without entering, and you are right, of the very controversial issue of this material.
But physics doesn't accept anymore that kind of definition of matter.
Which is the definition of matter?
Well, the definition of matter which you can weigh and measure and so on and so forth is not valuable anymore in physics.
I know subatomic physics, the empty spaces, that's very complex, but from a, I don't know, physiological point of view, can we accept, maybe without entering into physics, that the brain is a material subject that has material properties, without entering too deeply into it, that we can see, that we can preserve in formally in our whole for a long time? Is that correct? That we can see, we can touch, and this accept only that has this material property, and that can be preserved indefinitely, and that the brain as an organ, like the liver or like the kidney, and that's all, from the physiological point of view. Would that be provisionally correct?
Yeah, we have to limit ourselves to that kind of point, and then work with that.
Right. But let's say only that the brain is an organ like the liver or the kidney, that's all. With material property like the kidney or the liver, that's all.
I don't question that your emphasis on what you're just saying, the material aspect of the brain. But in saying it, you also brought in a lot of things. You said that the brain is the representative of the mind, of the personality.
This we are going to discuss in a moment. At the moment, I'm saying only that the brain is a material organ with some material property. Organ in the body. That's all. Or do we agree provisionally
of that statement that the brain is part of the body with neurons or cells, liquids, hormones, and many other things, like many other parts of the body, provisionally, okay? But at this moment, if you disagree, please state your disagreement.
Yes, we agree.
Yeah, do we agree on that? Provisionally. All right. Now, this organ, which is the brain, is in contact, now is the complexity, the contact with the outside world through sensory inputs, which are like the portals of entry into this organ, which is the brain. Now the brain is going to be very different from the kidney or from the liver, because the liver does not have the opening, has some acceptance of metabolic substances, but has not the many senses that the brain has for the inputs of what? Inputs of the environment to the inside of the brain. How is that? This is the crucial point. That the reality, the real objective, if such a thing exists, the objective reality cannot enter into the brain because neurobiological reasons. The brain, what can enter into the brain? Only the distorted, coded information from the environment. For example, this building, well, when I look at the building, the patterns of light are the emitters of energy which will come to my eye, to my retina, and in the retina, rods, cones, etc., will start chemical, rhodopsin, etc., and electrical phenomena that will be transmitted by the optic nerve, optic chiasma, radiations, supercolliculus, etc. And that's the statement. The brain, for physiological reasons, can deal only with coded information from the environment. The environment cannot come inside of the brain, only the coded representation.
But the brain is also material organ, like you said, and brain receives the food from environment.
Well, one second, let's make it
Which doesn't come in a coded form, partially form recorded form.
No, the food will be the need for the metabolic activities of the neurons. That's it. But now we are talking only
Purely about informational part.
right about information.
What about food that enters the stomach? Does not the stomach receive that information from the food?
Well, you like shows.
No, I'm making the point that the other organs may also receive external stimulus, which may later be related to the brain. But the point is that in a sense our stomach has receptors, our lungs for the air, our skin for heat, and they in sense are also receptors. In other words, I admit that the brain is the primary computer, if you wish, of receiving this external. But this great emphasis that's always placed on the brain correlates in a way with the primacy that's given to mental function. And that primacy given to mental function tends to ignore a lot of reality that is not strictly intellectual, what I mean by that is that there is our emotional or feeling components which tend to be ignored very, very largely by our intellectual system. And that's a great problem for people. It's not a problem for people who are trained to be intellectually poor. And I'm not decrying mental or intellectual activity. I'm just trying to say that it occupies such a space that for the reality of other aspects come forth is very difficult to find. And I was thinking, for example, I'm speaking of the feeling aspect, of intuitive aspect. There are people, for example, who are not powerful intellects and yet who sense things very, very powerfully in terms of their feeling, in terms of their intuition. I mean, this is a crucial point. In fact, it's a kind of criticism, what I'm saying right now, of our intellectual system. The fact that it ignored and has ignored and continues to ignore emotional and other aspects, which lead to questions of reality. Anyways, I'm trying to make a general statement.
One second. Let's try to clarify this point. It's very important. You are right. In all the organs, in all the body, the stomach, muscle spindles, many others, we have sensors, and there we agree completely. We have sensors. Now, where we disagree completely is that this is a question to you. Where these sensors could have some automatic reactions, true, automatic responses, true. But where all these feelings from the stomach, and especially if you talk about emotions, James Lange theory, etc., where these feelings are felt in the stomach? No, in the brain.
Often felt in the stomach.
No?
Yes.
One second. Let's
You
discuss
get
that.
feeling in the pit of the stomach.
No,
Many expressions of language.
Well, all right. I say no, but you say yes, fine. My argument is that we refer from the brain these feelings to the stomach. But if we anesthetize the stomach, the brain, can we have the stomach feelings? No. In other words, that the sensory inputs from the whole body, you are right, do exist, but all of them feed up to the brain. And is the brain the only analyzer, especially if we speak about conscious analysis, but also subconscious, is the only analyzer of all the inputs from our whole body. This is my statement. Therefore, analyzer. That's it. And we refer back to the sensation, to the stomach, to the hand, or to another place.
But that's the point. Analyzer, but not experiencer.
Yes, experience.
No, I don't think so.
When I say that, I touch my hand. Do I experience this in my hands or in my brain?
I believe you experience it in your hand.
No.
All right.
Okay, there is some disagreement here. This is up for the people to go on one side or the other.
That's the reality.
In the absence of the brain, can you experience anything?
There are people, I have seen people who were microcephalic, who have experienced emotion.
Explain what means microcephalic.
Yeah, very small brain.
Means a very, very small brain, in fact lacking essential portions of the brain, who yet experience, I've seen emotions of jealousy, tremendous emotions which I wouldn't have associated.
In microcephalic, yes, but in the absence of the brain, no.
Well, the absence of the brain, you see, for example, even sleep, in which we're supposed to be less aware of our environment. We are often aware of very much. People who are in a state of trance sometimes have I know all the faults maybe associated with it, have extended awareness. Sometimes, I'm not saying often, have awareness of things which they do not speak of when they are awake.
All right, well, here we have, let's try to make clear the agreements and also the disagreements.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. To the contrary,
Speaking
it's very good.
passionately.
No,
We're engaged in a dialogue.
No. It's very good to make clear in both aspects. So, here there is a disagreement, and well, I don't know, experience books are only the way to prove who is right. Probably both of us were right.
Yes.
That what I state is that the brain is the only organ able to feel. And you think that some feelings could be peripheral. I say no.
Solar plexus.
No. Solar plexus will repercute in the brain. It's always the same. Brain is the only sensory organ which will give us conscious feeling on reality.
What about the expression, I feel in my gut?
Naturally. But you feel, oh, I love you with all my heart.
Yes.
This is not true.
Yes.
You will live only with your heart.
You know the expression heartbreak is actually when experienced is felt in the heart as a break.
That's right. This is the old idea about psychology, which is rejected by the modern understanding. But okay, well, so we have a disagreement. Let's continue with our phenomenon.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's very good. And please do that, because I think this will make this more all right. No, that's fine. That's fine. Now, what still, okay, there's I can't hear you. I'm sorry, I can't. The what?
Your brain and the mind.
Oh, the brain and the mind. Well, this is we are working to see the difference between brain and mind. And soul, if you like. But this will be a Thursday. So, we are just trying to state that, this is my statement, that the brain can deal only with codified information from the environment, from sensory inputs, from the inputs from the whole body also, including, this is my statement, from the stomach and the muscles and etc. And the only way to feel all these things is in the brain. And the only way is through information codified as electrical and chemical patterns and nothing else. Electrical and chemical patterns. All right?
For myself. So we're talking about informational process now. So we say all mental activity of the human consists of certain codified patterns.
Yes.
Can we say that?
Yes.
So and that vibration, can we say what vibration instead?
Codified pattern.
Vibration could be different frequency, right?
Yes, but could be still a codified pattern.
Right, fine. Codifying vibration.
All right. Codified pattern, all right. And you say, again, now in memory, still is only a change in the physical, in the material carrier. Memory is a change in the material carrier, which later on, when the memory comes to consciousness, will be expressed as electrical and chemical patterns.
How the memory is stored? As a material?
As a material, yes.
How about holographic idea of memory?
Well, the Carl Pribler, holographic memory, this is very controversial. But my reason to tell you that it is stored as a material carrier is because the experiments of cryogenic in rats, you may stop all the neuronal activity in the rat, all the electrical and chemical, because you can freeze the rat and conditioned reflexes will not disappear. So the only explanation is that memory has been stored in some chemical and electrical pattern. How is memory, genetic memory stored? As a chemical pattern.
If you have a long shot, I mean, I'm not saying, I think it's quite natural for you to say that.
Can you say that just to
Yeah.
allow you
Okay,
for
yeah,
people
sorry.
to...
I think it's natural for what you're saying. I would, as a scientist, and as a scientist you're saying this, and in fact, I feel, I can tell you, and I may be wrong in what I'm saying, that, am I right in saying that you feel there is no reality other than the basic molecules of life?
No, I don't say that.
I want to know
No,
that.
I say that reality is right there.
Yes.
But what I state emphatically is that our perception of reality is only coded information. And therefore, that we have a deformed perception of reality through our neurobiological mechanism. So I do not deny the objectivity of the reality, but I deny the objectivity of our perceptions, because this is related to this limit of the neurobiological mechanism.
I agree with you that our perceptions are often distorted. You're saying they're distorted genetically, to start with, in a sense, because of our makeup.
Right.
Yes. I say that we have many distortions that arise, in fact, from our upbringing also. But I tell you, if our distortions are so, if we're so basically distorted, how is it that we have achieved a remarkable degree of control? Because after all, we had.
Sure, because the uniformity of biological mechanisms. That was one of my strong statements yesterday. This is going a little out of the subject, but I don't like to go out. But what I was saying is that if we believe in unity, if we strive for unity of all human beings, we cannot accept, I was saying that yesterday, on race, on religion, on political ideologies, on economy, we cannot have these elements as the unifying elements for all the human race. But we may have the neurobiological unity. In other words, this is answering your question, because we have some mechanisms which are similar not only in all human beings, but also in human beings and mammals and many other animals. So this biological uniformity, I think, is the hope for the future. Because unity can be established only, I think, on reality of biological mechanisms.
So that you answer was we can control environment because we all distort equally or approximately.
No, I don't say we can control environment yet. I'm going to say that later, not yet. And no, what I'm saying is that we have the motivation of our behavior, we have some similar neurobiological reasons, and therefore some uniformity in the motivation of our behavior. That's the only thing I'm saying at this point. Later on I'm going to go further. Yes.
So I can accept that premise, but it's not enough for me, because, and I pose to you the question, how about the great beings that have walked this planet through history? You know, the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, these great Indian saints. Okay, they've taken our, and this is not science, I'm making a jump here, but when you just talk about biology, all my lights go off and I say, there's more than biology that joins people.
What is more?
Well, here's where we have to go beyond the rational mind, the intellect, and so on, to talk about the more abstract things that you as a scientist, or at least a scientist, is having trouble measuring, talking about consciousness.
Measuring this, but I'm saying no, there's no problem. All this great science which is the teaching, and this is very important for all these people, which is yoga, which is Sananda, which is Jesus Christ, which is Marx, and many others. The same. They are light, if you like.
Very different forms.
Yes, very different. But the similarity is that they will give patterns of behavior, patterns of ideas, something that we are supposed to do. In other words, there are fantastic examples of how to live, motivational behavior, etc. But all are the same. So if you have a religious or any other idea, this nothing will motivate you to believe in something, to have feeling. Fine, but always the same. And all these things are biological.
I can see there's a biological motivating element, but they take us beyond our biology.
Not really. They drive our biology in a spiritual way. In a spiritual way. But in other words, the ideas, the spirit of your life, is something that we must accept. And we should go a bit beyond that, and then we can take it or not and stop too soon. Because the thing I would like to emphasize now is the value of the spirit in biology.
I'd like to see that.
Well, this must be proven biologically, scientifically. And exactly one of the points that I'm trying to make now in this distinction between material carriers and information is that information, to a great extent, will be the motivating factor, which could be spiritual. Why not? The spirit, and now, excuse me, well, no, let me and then we discuss that. I think that the inspiration of all these great saints, all of them, are mainly ideas, are mainly information, because the motivating factors, the spirituality, what is spirituality? It's a vision of reality, distorted or not, perhaps. If you believe, I don't know, if you are Catholic or you are Marxist, it makes not really difference. You have in your frame of reference, and this is now the main point that I'm trying to make now, why do you believe in yoga, or in Catholicism, or in communism? Have you invented the yoga practice? Have you invented the yoga philosophy? Or these philosophies have been invented centuries, millions of, I don't know, thousands of years ago by somebody else, transmitted through generations in books, in many other ways? And why are you here? Why do you have a kind of spirituality which I feel deeply just being here in this camp? And I mean it. I feel this spiritual strength which is moving my mind and my referential system and my ideology and my nucleoproteins in my hippocampus. I'm very serious when I say these things, because ideas, feelings, emotions, how can you separate any of these things from the neurobiological mechanism? You cannot. If you don't have a brain, that was a discussion I had with some big archbishop, if you don't have a brain, you cannot believe in God or anything else. You cannot believe in anything. And let's take the whole thing in something more practical. That's totally in the subject. Does an embryo, maybe 4 days old, she's only the blastomers and the somites and things, there's nothing, just two or three or four cells. Does this very germinal cell, or the the female ovum, something like that. Does this believe in anything? In yoga or in anything? You cannot. Can the ovum? One second. Let's take a very specific aspect. For example, walking, because this is more easy to deal with. Can the ovum walk? Obviously not, because it has no legs, has no nervous system. Therefore, if there is no nervous system, some behavioral patterns will be absent. When it has about, 6 months old embryo, well, still he cannot walk. A newborn baby, on term, 9 months, or 1 month after birth, can a little baby walk? No. See, I'm taking a very simple, just to go to something more complex. No, and why not? This is the neurobiological reason. The reason is because he has not, the pyramidal tract has not myelinized yet. The motor cortex is very primitive, and so there is no, the neuronal connections are not established. Because of neurobiological reasons, the newborn baby cannot walk. These are disorganized movements. Disorganized movements. Well, walking, no. Playing the guitar, no. At 1 month old, you cannot play the guitar. As simple as that. Because, well, why not? See, this is the point I'm trying to get at. Why not? For 2 reasons. One, because there is not enough neurobiological development, and therefore it is impossible for a newborn baby to play the piano, cannot, and never will be able to do that. And the second reason, as important as the first, because lacks the referential system with the memories and skills necessary to play the piano. And this is the point, that the point is that learning of these skills require sensory inputs codified, now we go back to our initial statement, codified sensory inputs which will establish material traces inside of the brain, probably in the limbic system, establishing then the memory traces, memory that will allow a person to play the guitar, the piano, or to talk English. Because memory will be necessary, but the difference between crickets and human beings in the memory is precisely because the limbic system, because the brain is different. A cricket never will be able to play the piano. Never, nor a monkey. Let's take a monkey to be more simple. A monkey cannot play the piano because he lacks the mental, the neuronal complexity, and you cannot teach, impossible, because he has not the neuronal complexity. Therefore, this is something that it is not enough. The genetic determinism, you need also learning through the early ages and then through life. And to be very practical for all of you, remember that neurons are not static. That was an old conception in anatomy. Certainly that if a neuron dies, it's gone forever. But the normal neurons in all of us are completely active, have a tremendous activity, chemical, electrical, and surprisingly enough, anatomical. The neurons grow and have some expansions in one way or in the other, and connect and disconnect, are very active elements. So I think there is a great hope in all of us, in me, but in you all, that learning neuronal changes still are possible. And therefore, we can teach not only our children, it is very important, we can teach ourselves to modify our emotions, our personality, with some limitations, our purpose of life. this is exactly the main problem, the main usefulness of meditation. Now coming to your field, this is not mine. When you meditate, now again there are several different kinds of meditation, or rather than meditation, you know this more than I, this is by neurobiology. When you think, and you start thinking about who are you, about your own personality, about the purpose of your own life, when you think, then you can impose on yourself drastic changes in your performance and in your behavior and even in your personality. So let's think about that, because perhaps this will be the most practical statement that I'm making to all of you. That if you think about yourselves, it is not enough the know thyself, know your own self. This is all right. But if you know yourself, change yourself, you can do it. For this you need to choose the path. Where are you going? Why? And you say, to me this is important because, well, I have been here for a few days and this is very enjoyable, very peaceful, beautiful. I've been thinking a lot. I think that I'm very grateful to all of you for this time to think away from civilization. That I'm making not only statements, but also decisions about my own life. What I'm going to do when I go back to the world, to this dangerous world of the outside? Well, I'm going to do several things which will be a little different. If you like, I can tell you later in the private conversation. But I'm going to change a little. It's something that you can do also yourself. Now, why? Because the teaching of all these people, but what is this teaching? Brainwashing. You understand what brainwashing is? I'm just forcing the issue.
Every teacher.
Right. Every the TV, the newspaper, our conversation. What I'm doing now, brainwashing you. You may accept or reject. And for this reason, what I'm trying to do in my normal life is trying to need to know that you have in your hands or in your brain the possibility to reject brainwashing, unless the ideas, so then it's not brainwashing. It's just giving you some ideas, giving you information, giving you coded information which you are going to store in your memory, in the limbic system. And this is this storage of memories of all your past experience, which constitute your own personality. And you are as you are because of your life experience, and then because of the genes, but mainly through all the things that you have learned as coded information from the outside. And this is again the crucial point. Then you have a material carrier, which is the brain, with a memory storage filled with information, and with the processing of information related to this memory storage. Because unless you have a memory, you do not understand the environment. What you are doing, for example, now, you are processing my coded information in some idiom, English or anything else. And you understand because you decode my code, providing a meaning which is going to be very different from my own meaning, naturally, because our coding and decoding mechanisms and personalities are very different. And then each of you are going to take this in a different way, and I'm going to agree or to disagree with what I'm saying. That's fine. Because naturally we have our own personality, which should not be too modified even by my own words. You should keep your personality. But you should think, what is useful for me? In which way I could change? Which things I'm going to take from here, from this environment? From the books, from the TV, from any comments, and then to try to think in the main motivations of life. But maybe this will be the next thing, motivation, purpose of life. This will be a separate subject. So let's take now to discuss what I have said up to now, which is that we are mainly a material carrier, which is the brain, modified in its histological, chemical, and electrical structure by the inputs coming from the environment up to the brain. And that these inputs will be stored as memory traces, probably as nucleoproteins in the, I don't know, limbic system, hippocampus, some others of the brain, but stored really. And therefore, what we are doing now in your personality is to compare the present with your past. And you will react in a certain way because your frame of reference, which is to a great extent your own personality. So, personality is right there, it's structured, but through your intelligence, you can modify your personality, not completely, but many parts of behavior, yes. You can do many things, and this is what you should think, and this is what you should try to do when you go out of here. Make some decisions, knowing that there are consequences. If you do one thing, consequences are going to be A, B, and C. All right. Choose the path of your life. Do not accept, how am I going to say, not even gurus, and certainly not neurobiologists. You just think by yourself. Try to establish your own identity, and then make the decisions like intelligently, thinking that what you decide is going to influence your future and the future of people who are around yourself. So this is transcendental, it's very important. And touching this subject, this word, transcendental, what I consider myself is like the material carrier, my brain, a material carrier of information from the outside. So I haven't invented anything. Very what I'm telling to you now. I'm not too original. I'm just expressing a little my frame of reference, the things that I have just accumulated through many years. And my behavior, again, will be determined by all these things. A little, perhaps, with my intelligence, but very little. And all this is personality, and all this is what you might think, and you may change. But what I'm saying is that material carrier, information from the outside, behavior what I'm doing, I'm writing books and whatever I do things, and all this is transmaterial. This is the word that I like to clarify. Transmaterial and transcendental. Transmaterial because we'll go from one material carrier to the next material carrier. For example, if I see anything, the coded information in my retina will be first chemical, then electrical, then chemical again, then electrical, etc. And the information will change material carriers without changing the information. This is the thing. And then what I am, you are material carriers of information, and the important thing is the material carrier or is the information coming from the past and going towards the future. This is, if you like, the spirit of all of us. Something that naturally the spirit that we may feel, but also we construct. And if you believe in this transmaterial, spiritual, coded information, then you accumulate, you try to construct as much as this information, behavior, work of art or anything else And then, well, it's the sensation that I have that in some way we are immortal. Immortal in things coming from the past and going through the future. And then our material carrier, our flesh, is not so important. Then I have really, I mean it, I have the sensation that I'm getting old and older and older. But this sensation, spiritual sensation of information coming from one way and going towards the future, students, future generations, this is the creativity that maybe my mind was able to do, but only just by putting together things that I borrow from the past. And this going towards the future is this sense of transmaterial, transcendental personality, which is by far stronger and more satisfying than any of our bodily pleasures. And in this way, I differentiate a little my pleasures of my body from the pleasures of the spirit and of the mind, which is the brain. But you know, the brain modified by all this wealth, all this richness, which is information, feelings, anything that you like. Feelings is something that I perceive, but it's all this related to information coming from the past and going towards the future. In this way, transmaterial, transcendental, give us, I don't know, the sensation of continuity, cosmic continuity. We are like a drop of water in the ocean. We are not so important. I don't consider myself so important. I shall disappear, so what? Things are going to continue in books, in children, in people. That's fine, that's beautiful. And this gives me the sensation of being young, even being old. I think that, and this is neurobiology. Maybe philosophical interpretation of neurobiology, but this is neurobiology, and this is how we are. And in this way, transmaterial, transcendental. Now, different subject, obviously, late purpose of life and many other things. But let's stop here and let's discuss this subject. Yes, please.
I understand, and the presentation is very logical, normal, from the point of view of neurobiology. But other things have long felt other things. And I'm going to be so presumptuous.
Okay, so you just
to
try to talk to the people. And for you, they
no,
should.
I speak for myself.
Yeah, they should.
But reading, they feel. You see, you put the spiritual as residing on this transmaterial thing. But there are people who feel that they have a spirit which existed long before they went to school. In fact, they feel they may even have a spirit while they were in utero. And they feel that this spirit, not because they think themselves important or not important, they think of it simply as their philosophy. They feel that this spirit is an entity which really motivates their beliefs, their feelings, their intelligence. That spirit is what they feel is their minds, which uses the material context that you've been talking about, and in the way it uses it. It actually uses the brain. Everything you've said about the brain being a material substance, I agree with. But spirit exists, in my view, from my experience, my own experience, exists as a reality so enmeshed with the material reality that we can't distinguish it. The interesting thing is that science has often felt that we can't study it, and indeed has taken it out on people who make movements in that direction, even if these movements took the form not of examining whether there's a spirit, but whether there is a motivating force that motivates the entire body. I'm going to be talking a bit about it tonight, so I don't want to go into it. But actually, that is where my passion in my dialogue with you comes from. Because it's very important for me. I mean, I appreciate your own vision. And it's really the vision of a scientist. I agree. Who's based his knowledge on what has happened in science. My own view is this: I accept what science has said, but I can tell you that I'm willing one day to have an entirely new interpretation of what everything goes on. Not that I'm ready myself to make it, but I feel that the future will come when people will be able to work on things that move closer to the point of a total motivating energy, which is yet not a spirit in the sense. But I'll show you what feeble efforts have been made in this direction, and how the people who have made it have suffered in the same way that religious martyrs have sometimes suffered from their point of view. I'm not exaggerating when I say it so interestingly, because it's not easy to persist in the point of view. What these people here are learning, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have a spirit, and that spirit is not based on the existence of material, but exists a priori, before the spirit, and before the material, and will exist after the material. No? What are they learning?
Well, I'm learning, that's another issue.
No. You may not believe it, but what they're teaching here is this. You can believe what you want, but they believe here, and maybe I'm wrong. Do they believe in the privacy of spirit here or no?
Don't put him in a compromise.
No.
Express yourself.
No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
But
I'm wrong.
you see, what I would reject is, I think this is a very good example about 2 points of view.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But what I would reject is the mysterious qualities of something that you cannot touch with spirit. What I'm trying to do in my neurobiological experimentations is to try, could I see some of the qualities which I could experiment with, and this is information. Some of these qualities of this spirit. And what I reject is this fuzzy, nebulous idea about something that we cannot touch. And let me finish, then you got it. And what I try to do is, well, to try to see which is behavior, which is the brain, which are the neurons, which are the elements which intervene in the neurons. And I know that when I talk only about information, I'm deforming reality, because the reality is a whole. Fine, that the relation of the brain and mind is something very complex and very intimate, yes. But this is the way how our limited brain works. That we must splice reality, focus only in one area, and try to go deep into this area and to investigate. And this is information, material traces, etc. And then certainly we need a philosopher, biological philosopher, who should put everything together. But then we are giving facts and realities that we can experiment with. And that's something which is something strong, and I cannot tell people, be good, if not God is going to punish you. No, we must be more precise, be good, because if not you are going to have twisted neurons. People understand that.
I don't know how to yes. The thing is, every new idea to begin with is fuzzy. If it was a clear
But that was a very old idea. The mind is a very old idea.
Yeah, no, the mind is an old idea, but the
Neurobiology
point
is
is,
very young.
when you begin to work on the thing, if it was all clear immediately, you wouldn't have to work. But you work in fuzziness, and you extract clarity from it. But that, I have had that experience. I mean, I have walked into the mud, if you wish, or if you wanted to another thing. And I know that one can bring out gems. I mean, they may not appear that way to everybody, but after all, as you say, we each have our own makeup. But you see, you're presenting a point of view with which, in a way, I am the opposite. I'm at the opposite pole. Although I am a scientist, I've spent 40 years in the scientific community, and I do not say that I am absolutely a scientist, and I will reject anybody who says that I'm not. I've published over 100 papers in journals who've agreed that I am. So, and I've gotten degrees in it. Now, but the point is that in science, I'll tell you what my passion is about. Take a book of biochemistry. The first sentence in this book of biochemistry, which my sons used in their study in medicine, says, all life is based on lifeless molecules. Now, I don't know how many of you believe it, but if you're in biochemistry and if you're in science, you're told that the first sentence, you should know it, that all life is lifeless molecule, that is based on lifeless molecules. So now, Dr. Delgado is a scientist, and he worked in neurobiology, and he's thought and studied, and he brings all this together, and he believes that there is some spiritual element. I'm sorry to speak but you see, the spirit, the way you talk, for you, listen, we all are going to die, whether we're happy or not, whether we want to or not. But I do believe that there's something, I don't know how permanent it is, I can't say that it's immortal, but I have evidence that there is more to life than what neurobiology or the rest of biology has so far uncovered. I only wish there was the opportunity to investigate aspects of this in the laboratory. I admit that there's some aspects of it that one may not be able to investigate, but being a scientist, I'm always willing to begin with getting a little bit. And from my own belief, I mean, I have learned in another environment, Dr. Delgado, I assure you, I wouldn't stand up and talk so vehemently, because I know I would be shouted down. But in an environment like this, where at least there may be some people who feel in the reality of spirit as something that has primacy, not as a product of evolutionary development, not that it isn't, it may be involved, but it's primary. That's something I'm not a saint. I can't answer for all the, but that is a belief of mine.
Why don't leave people just to
Okay,
react
now
to
let
you?
them, yeah.
Yes. I think that you state your position clearly, I state mine, and all right, but let's have a little, perhaps I would say, question. No? Yes.
I think reality based upon information is being processed. That we could call it as a relative reality. So how do we distinguish from the relative reality as opposed to the absolute reality?
Because the absolute reality is a fiction which is only right there. And it's a construct of our mind. And personally, we can perceive only the relative reality as deformed by our senses, and that's all. As deformed by our senses. In other words, the only thing that we feel is the codified information from reality. That's all. Which will be codified in different ways, different people. But we know intellectually that in addition of this perception, there is a real reality in the outside of us. This is only interpretation of the real reality. Interpretation of it. Any other question?
I can consider the driver if I have the car in my driving. If I'm swimming, then I can be considered a swimmer. I can be considered a thinker when I'm using my mind to think. So it's in relation to the instruments and the performance of mind through that instrument that I can be considered the linguist. So if your instrument is the eye, I can obviously not hear sound waves of the eye. Right? So depending on what instrument you're using, would be your perception of what it is that you're listening to. So it's usage of the instrument that defines at that moment a particular function. But the way the spirit has been defined, it is that which exists when no instrument is ever in use.
Without the instrument, without the brain, can you feel anything?
So that which makes the thinker think,
Yes.
that which makes the seer see, that because of which.
You are so right.
So that is never going to be available. The instruments that we possess. So with the instruments that we possess, all that we get is one aspect of some, and it will never be that which makes that very instrument work.
You are so right that this is the great problem of the classical neurobiology of the past. That they had the instrumental deformation of reality. Of reality, if they were, for example, I was using implanted electrodes to know the brain waves. That gave me only brain waves because my instrumental deformation. Other ones are chemists. They will have only chemical information. So you are right that the instrument will give you answers only in relation with the instrument that you are using. Right conclusion. And therefore, we need a new kind of scientist, philosopher, to put together the instrument. Pardon?
A new kind or an ancient?
No, a new kind. Because of the ancient times, they did not know biology. And you need a neurobiological understanding to be close to what a human is not. So it is not the old ideas of the old thinkers and philosophers. No, we need a new neurobiologist, philosopher with nothing for the future. That should put together, maybe should try to find the spirit that you are talking about in your life within the mesh of the neurons and chemistry and medicine. But we need both. With the spirit only is not enough. The old people, Sanskrit, etc., India, etc., are not enough because they did not know neurobiology. No, the neurobiologist is not enough either. We need both.
Again, the problem comes to just looking for different instruments to measure.
No. The instrument that I am talking about is the brain, is the intelligence, is the interpretation.
No, the very intelligence, like when I use my intelligence, I become a thinker of thought. Right. So that's my brain is the instrument that allows me to think thought, which an amoeba doesn't have, so it probably doesn't think.
And therefore you have the limitation of the instrument.
Right. So the instrument is available to the human. The such instrument available is that
the intellect, which thinks. And how is that instrument going to grow something which makes itself something rather than
It's very good what they have been said many
rather than
times.
indeed, because whatever it is that you objectify with that instrument, you just become the object of
Brain,
that
certainly
instrument.
brain, has been said many times. And this is a great problem, but which will be the other solutions? Do you have any other?
It doesn't have to be settled.
Well, yes. Or at least we must understand. All right, but we must understand the problem and understand disagreements and disagreements. All right.
No, but the physicists say that the duality of nature is such that you cannot catch up the wave and particles at the same time.
I know. Yes.
So the reality itself, unmeasurable. That's what we're talking about, absolute
All right.
reality. It's
But
never going to be.
yes, but we must have some kind of opinion. We must try to do something. If not, we are lost. We do ignoramos et ignorabimus, de Raymond. No, we must have some hypotheses. We must have some attempts with knowing our limitation. This is very important. That knowing our limitation.
We can know our limitation, but we can say that it's absolute reality, that it's unmeasurable, because that's what it is.
Yeah, all right.
It doesn't have to be touched. It doesn't have to be measured. We don't have to feel bad about it.
We must touch our behavior. We must direct our thinking. We must direct our thoughts.
That's fine.
All right.
That's fine.
With only promise. Excuse me, let's go. There's some more. Yes.
One thing that is still very much a mystery to me is how something that is non-material can be coded materially. For example, you said that the memory, the subject that you were talking about, is coded in the brain, which is sort of electrical and chemical process. Now, if I just give you an example, would you consider a tape recorder also a material carrier? So, information coded on their electromagnetically, and then it can be fed through an apparatus like a tape recorder, and it will produce sound waves, which are also measurable physically. Now, the brain takes in information, coded, as you say, electrically and chemically, but later on it can generate something which is not measurable.
Right. Because it will be modified by the frame of reference of the individual. Yes.
But how can it do that? How can it generate something?
Because modify the recorded, you take in your example of the tape, when you play the tape, you may change the tone, you can change many things.
Yes, but what it produces is sound waves, right? That can be measured, their amplitude, and so on, can be measured. But what the brain can take information, sound, light, or whatever, and we say it's coded electrically, chemically. And then later, it produces something which is totally immaterial.
No, totally material, no. The language is material, behavior is material, writing is material, no.
No, that's not true. Memory is not material. For example, Swami Vishnu was here yesterday in a wheelchair.
Yes.
Now, he's not there now in a wheelchair, and yet the memory of him is totally immaterial. There is no material.
No, it's material, has a material background. Without the material neuronal background, memory cannot exist. If you destroy this material
What
background,
generated is perhaps material, but the essence of it is totally
well, the
immaterial.
essence,
You can't measure how
again,
big
now
it is.
we are talking, the
It has
essence,
no weight.
yeah,
It
the
has
essence
no-
is information, which is non-material.
So how can something immaterial generate something? How can something material generate something immaterial?
Is the tape, is the music material or immaterial?
The music is material. It can be measured.
The carrier is material.
The carrier is material, and what it generates is material.
Something immaterial, which is music.
How can music is material? It can be measured.
Well, yes, but in the moment of production, has no immaterial basis. You materialize when the material carrier is going through the material elements of the electronics.
Yeah. And then it produces sound waves, which are material.
Some waves, but the musical sensation is not material.
Yeah, that's true.
The musical sensation is depending on the experience and many other things.
Yes, and the musical experience doesn't happen in the tape recorder, it happens in the brain.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. So the brain is totally different because it generates or it deals with something and creates
Sure,
something that's totally
it's different, but unless we make a distinction between material carriers and immaterial information, we cannot investigate immaterial information. Even if you were right, from the technical point of view, we need to separate one from the other in order to be able to investigate which are the non-material elements in our thoughts, in our spirit, in our behavior. We need to investigate that. And if you give me a better way, I would love to follow your path. But if you don't give me a better way, then I say the only way is to investigate the elements which constitute the immaterial aspects of behavior and thinking and spirit. Okay, well, we shall, I know, yes. Excuse me, there's one more. Yeah.
What's inspiration? Yeah. Tu ne veux pas dire au niveau...
Non, c'est pas en français, je dois déjà comprendre un peu ce que vous dites, mais... Qu'est-ce que vous dites? Oui.
Il va avoir une inspiration.
Inspiration de quoi?
Comme exemple.
Artistic inspiration. What is inspiration, you say? Inspiration, well, is all your background of all your experience can have inspiration without memory, without experience. Il est possible d'avoir de l'inspiration avec pas de mémoire. Je ne crois que ce n'est pas possible.
Somebody is bringing up Carl Sagan's notion of 15 billion years ago, Big Bang. And where was the origin of the brain at that time?
It's only 1 million years old. That's all.
No, but then
So at the Big Bang there was no brain. Which brain organized the Big Bang? Is that your question? Which brain organized the Big Bang? I know it's like it.
So, in other words, the consciousness, and what you're saying is, the brain is the source of consciousness. The brain is the source of consciousness.
No, it's not the source. No. The brain is the material carrier for other elements which are not material. I don't say that the brain secretes thoughts, like the kidney secretes urine. That was said by the French author. No, I don't say that at all. So it's not that. It's that the brain is only a material carrier for many other elements coming from many other places. That's different. Very different.
So all information has form and shape, or concepts.
As patterns. Yes.
When there are no concepts and no thoughts or no forms, then what is the role of the consciousness?
If there is nothing, there is nothing. I don't understand this question. If there is nothing, the fertilized egg has no conscience.
Isn't everything come out of nothingness?
No. Everything comes from the inputs coming from the environment.
No, primal elements which were in their primal form.
No, at that time there was
condensed into a form and phenomenon.
Well, at that time there was maybe the conscious, the universal consciousness, which is God or something like that. But that's very different. We're talking about human beings.
That's what we're talking about. The consciousness is the first element, and then all else goes down.
No. You need a carrier, and you need both elements. If one is missing, you don't have the other. What?
Just an opinion.
Well, you need both, because without the brain, can you think without the brain? You cannot. Can you think without sensory inputs? You cannot. For example, the blind people without sensory inputs cannot see, and they need training. Well, it's a long story. The people born blind, for example, with congenital cataract, the neurons in the occipital cortex remain infantile for years. And then when cataracts are removed at the age of 12, 14, something like that, they don't know how to use their eyes. They have no perception, they don't know, because they lack experience. They lack referential system. That's the point. So you need both. Cornea plus experience modifying the cornea. Excuse me, I think I have two or three more questions.
We can just take two more questions and then we have to conclude because the class is about to start.
Thank you very much. You are a very good teacher. Because I didn't check, but your opinions are very especially
I'm not courageous, I'm trying to learn, you know.
Yes, I know, but still you are very good. And but your message is not, if I understood you well, is that you think that you are a drop of water in the ocean, and that after you death, say if I'm wrong, I mean,
things
that
will
finish
continue.
of you. I mean,
Things will continue.
That
This
things
camp will continue,
but
and many of things will
function
continue.
will not exist any longer. Is that what I understood?
No, because some of my ideas and my work will go forward.
Yes, okay, you are using the word.
So this is my personality will go ahead. This is the transmaterial concept of personality. Transmaterial, transcendental, going ahead, going forward.
I think there was opposed position with the whole debate about the spirit and the matter, which comes after.
No, first no, they come together. And nobody comes first. Both things are essential. And without one, the other has no meaning. There's one more question here. And that
Just
is,
a comment about what you said last night towards the end in your dialogue with Sanji about mantra helping to liberate the mind. It's too big a topic, but I would just like to suggest, yes, that maybe a future discussion talk about what that means, and that's just, I just wanted to make that comment. I found it, I really love the way you present with the openness, and I just very interested in that, without wanting to.
well, thank you to all of you.
Thanks to Dr. Delgado, because I felt throughout the whole thing that my neurons were starting to grow here. I know we would all love to continue to question him further and so on. You'll be here still tomorrow, is it not?
No, I'm here tomorrow, maybe I will come.
Tomorrow,
But today, I would love to.
So maybe Dr. Delgado can informally take some questions, meet with you, and so on. And then we'll have a little bit tonight, I think. Dr. Grad is presenting, then you can reverse the role.
I'm very glad. No. I certainly give you reasons.
Thank you again.